a great exhibition of the human soul. Close your eyes and allow yourself to drift into a sleep where lines, shapes, and symbols speak in the language of humanity's oldest memory. Chapter 1. Mysterious Origins, Prehistoric and Primitive Art. Ancient America, when we speak about the emergence of art, we speak of one of the most mysterious phenomena in human history, of something we often know no more about than the origins of language itself. If we define art as activities such as temple building, house construction, the making of paintings, sculptures, or woven patterns, then it is difficult to find a people entirely unfamiliar with it. But if we speak of art as something refined, luxurious, as objects exhibited in museums or decorating salons, then we discover that many of the greatest masters of the past hardly thought of what they created in the way we now associate with the word art. Architecture is a telling example. We all know beautiful structures that can rightly be called works of art. But if you think about it, there are almost no buildings that were created without a specific, practical purpose. The people who used them, for worship, entertainment, or daily life, first considered their usefulness. And yet, they noticed, I like this shape. I don't like those proportions. And so the architect's work was judged not only by practical standards, but by aesthetic ones, according to the idea of correct form. The same was true, far back in time, of painting and sculpture. They were given clear, functional roles. And if we don't understand what those roles were, it becomes hard for us to grasp their meaning. The farther back we go in history, the more specific, and at the same time, more enigmatic, those purposes may appear to us. Now imagine leaving your familiar city, traveling to a village, or even farther, to the tribes whose lives more closely resemble the way our distant ancestors lived. These peoples are often called primitive, but not because their thinking is primitive. On the contrary, their thinking is often more intricate than ours, because it is closer to the very beginning of human history. For them, there was no divide between house and image in terms of usefulness. A hut was built to offer protection from rain, wind, and sun. Images were created to protect against other invisible forces, which, to them, were as real as the elements of nature. In other words, sculpture and painting served magical functions. And in order to understand these earliest, most distant artistic phenomena, we must try to enter the consciousness of the prehistoric human being, to realize that for them, an image was not mere decoration, but something purposeful, deliberate, alive. There's no need to strain ourselves. It's enough to simply look inward and ask, do traces of this so-called primitive thinking still live within us? When we look at a photograph of a beloved athlete, don't we feel a strange resistance if we imagine poking a hole through the picture? We know rationally that no harm would come to the person. And yet, somewhere deep within, there's a flicker of belief that something real might be disturbed by damaging the image. And if such irrational superstitions still dwell within us in the age of nuclear energy, then it's hardly surprising that they were widespread among prehistoric peoples. Everywhere, people turned to magic rituals. They would create a doll or image of their enemy and pierce it with spears or burn it. And they believed this would harm the real person. Even in England, the effigy of Guy Fawkes is still burned on the anniversary of the gunpowder plot. Or imagine an artist sketching a herd of animals in an African village, and the local people becoming alarmed if you take that image away, how will the animals live? They truly believed that the picture stole something of the animal's life. Ideas like this are crucial to remember when we look at ancient images. The first cave paintings were not just pictures. They were expressions of faith in the magical power of the image. In the 19th century, when caves in Spain and southern France were discovered, scholars refused to believe that Ice Age humans could have produced such vivid, lifelike images of animals. But when stone tools and bones were found nearby, it became clear. These images were created by hunters who knew their animals intimately. In those caves, you crawl through narrow, dark corridors, and suddenly, your flashlight falls upon the silhouette of a bull, and the entire space is charged with mystery. And think, no one would have gone into such depths merely to decorate the walls for beauty's sake. The drawings, such as those in the Lascaux cave, are not laid out in neat order. They overlap, they accumulate. But this isn't chaos. It's an expression of an ancient faith. The hunter believed that if he could depict his prey, if he could pierce the painted body with his spear, then the real animals would submit to him. This is a hypothesis, but it is supported by how modern tribes still treat images. They continue to represent animals artistically for magical purposes. In some places, the carvings still appear on sacred rocks. Everywhere. Rituals, dances imitating animals. And they believe that this will help them master the hunt. Some tribes believe they are descended from wolves, ravens, or frogs. There's a sense of dual existence. They are both human and animal. At first glance, these beliefs may seem strange, but they're not entirely foreign to us. Think of the Roman legend of Romulus and Remus, suckled by a she-wolf, and how a living wolf was kept near the Capitoline Hill until quite recently. Or think of the British lion, still roaming in caricatures and on Trafalgar Square. Of course, political symbols are not quite the same as a sacred totemic bond. But in tribal societies, no one mocks these transformations. There are no grown-ups to say, "Stop playing pretend." And in those rituals, these magical metamorphoses, they are taken literally. They're not games in our sense of the word. They're ritual acts, inherited from ancestors, deeply believed. And their effect is so powerful that people don't break character. They don't stop to reflect critically. They live the ritual fully. Each of us, too, holds beliefs that we accept without question until the very moment we begin to doubt. Now, one might think, what does all this have to do with art? But in fact, it lies at the very root of artistic creation. The artists of tribal societies work for rituals. Their aim is not beauty, as we understand it, but to make something that works, that fulfills its function in the ceremony. And everyone in a tribe knows what a shape means, what a color signifies. They are not waiting for the artist's personal vision. They are waiting for craftsmanship. The artist must perform their task precisely, skillfully, and we don't need to look far for parallels. Don't think of a national flag as just a piece of pretty fabric. And people don't wear a wedding ring just as decoration. Even within rules, there is room for taste, for artistry. Think of decorating the Christmas tree. It's a ceremony. Each family has rules, traditions, and they matter deeply. And yet, there's still freedom. Where to place the candle, how much tinsel to use. For some, a white tree may seem more beautiful, even if others find that strange. But to those who understand the meaning behind the ritual, every detail is important. So-called primitive art is also created by rules, but it leaves space for individual talent. And no matter how ancient these creators may be, they were astonishingly skilled. The Maori people carve miracles in wood. And we marvel, such simple tools, such great mastery. And yet, technical skill alone is not an artistic quality. If it were, then the craftsmen who build ships in bottles would be great artists. But tribal art shows us, it's not about skill, it's about ideas. The history of art is not just a timeline of accumulating techniques. It's a history of changing values, changing ways of seeing the world. And we are more and more compelled to admit that a tribal artist could capture the truth of nature just as vividly as a Western master. In Nigeria, bronze heads were discovered, astonishingly realistic. Created centuries ago and clearly without any external influence. And if such images seem distant to us today, try this small experiment. Take a sheet of paper and draw a face, a circle, a couple of lines. Before you appears a face without eyes. Does it seem sad, empty? We feel the urge to give it eyes. And when you add 2 dots, something within settles into place. To us, it's a game. To the ancient artist, it was magic. In the artist's mind, if the figure has eyes, then it sees. And for this, exact likeness isn't necessary, only a symbol. The Polynesian god Oro, a wooden idol, carved with 2 eyes and a pair of hands. That's all, and yet one feels its power. This is not art in the modern sense, it is ritual. But try replacing the dots with crosses or simple lines, and still, the face is there. This teaches us, a form can emerge from anything, and it works. A mask from New Guinea may not be beautiful by our standards, but it is charged with geometry, structure, and force, and it works. It has an effect. Young men wear the masks, become ghosts, and they frighten the others. The entire composition is logical, complete. Its meaning is embedded in form. And now, you can simply close your eyes and imagine, deep inside a cave, somewhere in the dark, a hand draws a line on stone, almost invisible, and yet it shifts the world. Your sleep will be soft, and you, protected by ancient symbols, where everything is connected to everything.